Viltrumites aren't just another race of superpowered beings, they are a species built entirely around domination. Every part of their existence, from their history to their culture, revolves around one idea: the strong deserve to rule. That belief creates some of the most powerful beings ever imagined. But here's the thing, the even Viltrum Empire acknowledges all Viltrumites are not equal. Some are nothing more than obedient soldiers, while others shape entire wars, write history, and redefine what real power actually looks like. Today I'm ranking every major Viltrumite, and this goes well beyond strength alone. This list considers the physical power, tactical intelligence, in-universe impact, and loyalties of each important Viltrumite, because who they serve and how far they're willing to do for their cause matters a lot. And by the end, it becomes very clear why one Viltrumite stands above everyone else. But before we rank them, we need to go over what makes Viltrumites so dangerous. It isn't just their powers, it's also how they became what they are. Thousands of years before the events of the main story, the Viltrumites went through a brutal self-purge. They eliminated the weak among their own population, leaving behind only the strongest Viltrumites. This reshaped their society and fundamentally altered their genetic future, creating a race biologically optimized for strength, durability, and conquering weaker species. Now, physically, Viltrumites are among the most powerful beings in the universe. They possess incomprehensible strength, capable of leveling cities, splitting planets, and overpowering other superpowered beings with ease. Their durability allows them to survive extreme damage, including prolonged beatings, high-speed impacts, and even exposure to the cold vacuum of space. They can fly at incredible speeds, travel between planets without issue, and recover from injuries that would be fatal to almost any other species. But it's their culture that truly defines them. Viltrumites believe in absolute superiority. Compassion is seen as weakness, hesitation as failure. Their goal is simple: conquer everyone to expand the Viltrumite Empire, and loyalty to the Empire is expected, ingrained, and enforced. Disobedience to the cause is not tolerated. But over time, as the story progresses, we see cracks in that ideology. Characters like Omni-Man and Mark begin to challenge what it means to be Viltrumite, proving that even in a race built on emotionless dominance, empathy may be possible. Now that we understand what makes a Viltrumite, let's rank each major Viltrumite based on their strength, strategy, and overall impact. Thula. Starting off, we have Thula. She stands out immediately because of her fighting style. Unlike most Viltrumites, she uses a weapon, her jawblade, which gives her a more savage and visually distinct approach to combat. In close-range fights, she's aggressive, relentless, and clearly experienced. She doesn't hesitate, and she goes for lethal damage right away. That makes her more dangerous than the average Viltrumite soldier. However, when you look closer, that same trait is also what holds her back. The strongest Viltrumites don't rely on weapons. Characters like Omni-Man, Conquest, and Thrag dominate using nothing but their own physical power. The fact that Thula uses a weapon, albeit masterfully, suggests that she doesn't fully reach that same level of natural dominance. It's not that she's weak, but her power ceiling is lower compared to the higher-ranked Viltrumites. She pushes forward, overwhelms opponents when she can, but she wouldn't hold up for long against the likes of Conquest or Thrag, unlike the more powerful members of her species. She would definitely need backup against any of the series' top-tier fighters. She can win fights, but she doesn't redefine them, and certain matchups would leave her as a stain on the concrete. Her loyalty to the Viltrumite Empire is straightforward. She believes in the ideology and carries out her role without hesitation. But she's a worker ant. She doesn't influence the bigger picture. She's a capable warrior, but not a game changer, and in a list like this, that keeps her near the bottom. Lucan is an impressive Viltrumite and a legitimate threat. What puts him above the standard Viltrumites is simple. He proves himself against one of the strongest characters in the series. During his confrontation with Omni-Man, Lucan pushes Nolan to the brink in a brutal and relentless fight. This isn't a one-sided encounter, it's violent, drawn out, and shows that Lucan has the raw strength to seriously damage an elite Viltrumite, even after taking critical damage himself. That fight performance is the indicator that elevates him. His fighting style is straightforward and heavily reliant on brute force. He also has strategic thinking, adaptability, and endurance. Fighting with Omni-Man proves that Lucan is operating on a higher level than typical Viltrumite soldiers, but it also highlights his limitations. He overwhelms when he can, but he can also be overwhelmed himself. Nolan ripped out his guts and rammed a sharp boulder through the open wound. Lucan does still manage to incapacitate Nolan, allowing him to be captured, but he also collapses right after delivering the final blow in that fight. In Viltrumite culture, rank isn't just about strength, it's about totally dominating. Lucan comes reasonably close to being capable of that, but close doesn't matter in a society that only respects absolute victory. Lucan's loyalty to the Empire is absolute. He serves as an enforcer, carrying out orders without question, and besides reproducing with only one human against very clear orders, he fully embraces Viltrumite ideology. But like others in this range, he doesn't shape the story so much as he reacts within it. He's powerful, dangerous, and proven in combat, but ultimately he lacks any meaningful impact on the broader story. Kid Omni-Man, aka Oliver Grayson, is one of the most unique characters on this list, not just because of his hybrid nature, but because of how differently he approaches power. While he possesses significant Viltrumite strength, his mindset sets him apart. Oliver is thoughtful, efficient, and often ruthless in ways that even other heroes on Earth don't fully embrace. He often prioritizes long-term protection of the masses over showing villains any mercy, which makes him incredibly effective in combat. In fights, Oliver doesn't hesitate. He doesn't hold back, and he doesn't prolong battles, especially when innocent lives are on the line. He goes for the quickest and most efficient way to win, even if it means crossing lines that his brother wouldn't. That approach makes him unpredictable and dangerous, especially when compared to Mark, who often struggles with those decisions. His loyalty is primarily to Mark, but it's not blind. Oliver challenges him, questions his choices, and pushes against his ideals. That dynamic creates tension and helps both characters improve and evolve. It also highlights Oliver's independence. He isn't controlled by Viltrumite ideology, but he also doesn't fully reject all of it. While he may not have the same level of raw power as fully grown, full-blooded Viltrumites, his mindset and approach to combat make him a significant force. He is still learning and deciding what kind of a superpowered being he really wants to be. As a result of his youth, and sometimes his behavior can be reckless and not fully thought through. But still, Oliver represents a different kind of strength. One rooted in efficiency and adaptability that, paired with the fact that his full potential hasn't even been reached yet, earns him a solid position in the ranking. Anissa is one of the first Viltrumites to truly put into perspective just how far Mark has to go in the beginning. When she confronts him, the fight is completely one-sided. She dominates him with ease, showing superior strength, control, and confidence. He only survived because she was not sent to kill him. If she had been, that would have been his last fight. And it's not just that she wins, it's how effortlessly she does it. But that moment establishes her as a serious threat and immediately places her above many other Viltrumites in terms of raw power. But what makes Anissa stand out isn't just her strength, it's her development. Unlike most Viltrumites who remain rigid in their beliefs, Anissa begins to change over time. Her interactions with Mark and her experiences on Earth force her to question the ideology she was raised with, and that is no small feat. Her loyalty starts as absolute devotion to the Empire. She fully believes in their mission and carries it out without hesitation. But as her perspective shifts, that loyalty becomes more complicated. She begins to see the flaws in Viltrumite thinking, and that increases her importance to the story. That internal conflict adds a layer of complexity that most Viltrumites lack because they are basically completely brainwashed starting from birth. Anissa's evolution shows that she has better critical thinking skills than average Viltrumites and isn't afraid to go against the grain. Again, in terms of combat, she remains a formidable force, capable of holding her own in major conflicts, like when she fought Thaddeus and even had a slight edge on him, and her mental and emotional growth truly elevates her, and she's more than just a brainless weapon. Like, Anissa is a character who strategizes, cares, and fights very well, but there are still Viltrumites much stronger and impactful, leaving her at the 10th spot on this list. Despite how impressive she is, General Craig represents something more than sheer brute strength. He also shows the immense impact of mastering leadership of other Viltrumites. While he isn't necessarily among the strongest Viltrumites physically, his importance comes from his role within the Empire. In a society that encourages relentless dominance, maintaining order is no small task, and Craig is one of the figures responsible for keeping that structure intact. On Viltrum, official titles are rarely given to anyone outside of their royalty, so Craig stands out as the only Viltrumite with a formal rank besides the Empire's rulers, and it shows how unique he really is. Not only is is he a master warrior, but his leadership skills were deemed worthy of distinction in a culture that prizes raw strength above all else. As a general, he operates as a commander, overseeing operations and ensuring that Viltrumite forces function as a cohesive unit rather than a collection of individual warriors. In combat, even if he's not always the one dominating the battlefield, Craig is still incredibly capable, but his true strength lies in coordination and control. He understands how to deploy strong fighters effectively to further the mission of the Empire. That level of intelligence and awareness gives him an edge over purely instinct-driven Viltrumites. His loyalty is primarily to the Empire and its hierarchy, particularly to Thrag. However, it's less ideological and more practical. He's not necessarily driven by blind devotion. Craig believes in the system because it works, and it works in no small part because of his leadership. That makes him more grounded than many of his peers. What keeps him from ranking higher is his lack of standout combat feats. He doesn't have a defining fight that proves he can compete with top-tier Viltrumites one-on-one, but his role in maintaining the Empire's structure gives him a level of importance that can't be ignored, securing his place in the middle of the list. Anan represents the future that Thrag is trying to create, a new generation of Viltrumites designed to restore the Empire's dominance. Physically, he lives up to that expectation. He is powerful, aggressive, and clearly built for combat. In battles, he demonstrates the ability to hold his own against experienced fighters, showing that he has the raw potential to become a major force. However, that's also where his limitations begin to show. Onan is a product of conditioning rather than experience. His loyalty to Thrag is absolute, but it's not something he has chosen. It's something he has been raised into. That lack of independence prevents him from evolving beyond the role given to him by his father. He is ridiculously dangerous in combat. He can fight and he can endure, but he doesn't display the same level of strategic thinking as higher-ranked characters. He reacts rather than plans, and that can make him predictable against more experienced opponents, a real vulnerability that keeps him from being ranked higher for me. What ultimately holds Onan back is his lack of individuality. He doesn't challenge the system, and he doesn't redefine it. He exists within the framework Thrag has built, serving as a powerful but controlled asset. While he has the potential to climb higher, he never fully realizes it, unlike his sister. Ursal is one of the most underrated Viltrumites in the entire series, and moving her up the list completely changes how she should be viewed. Unlike the lower tier soldiers, Ursal isn't just another fighter, she's Thrag's daughter and his second in command, and that alone tells you how dangerous she really is. While many of Thrag's children rely purely on aggression, Ursal stands out immediately because of her composure. She's the responsible sibling compared to her twin Onan, who is more reckless. She often calls him out for unnecessary slaughter, showing a level of restraint that most Viltrumites simply don't have. That difference shows up in combat. Ursal has a deadly combination of strength and control. Yet thanks to Thrag actually investing significant time into training her directly, she's notably stronger than her siblings. She proves that by holding her own against high-level opponents like Adam Eve and even beating her, and she was able to go toe-to-toe with General Craig as well. Those are incredible feats, and they place her firmly above standard Viltrumite soldiers and into a more elite tier. What makes her even more interesting is her evolution. Initially, she is completely loyal to Thrag, following him without question. But once she realizes that he views all of his children as nothing more than expendable pawns, that loyalty shatters. Her heel-face turn is immediate and decisive. When Mark rises up against Robot, Ursal sides with him and convinces her remaining siblings to join her. That shows capability of independent thought and self-determination, something extremely rare among Viltrumites. On top of that, her hybrid biology plays a role in her development. As a half-Thraxan, she aged rapidly, gaining combat experience in a much shorter time. And her photographic memory means she retains every lesson, every fight, and every mistake. That means she is hyper-aware of her weak points and constantly improving. In total, it's her combination of her lineage, power, intelligence, and growth that makes Ursal far more dangerous than your typical Viltrumite. Thetis is one of the most important strategic minds in the entire series. As a Viltrumite, he understands the Empire from the inside out, its strengths, its weaknesses, and most importantly, to him, its flaws. And that knowledge allows him to do something almost unthinkable. He betrays the Empire and helps build the resistance against it. This earned him the moniker of the Great Betrayer. Physically, Thetis is still a Viltrumite. meaning he possesses all the standard abilities: strength, durability, flight, and longevity. But he's not at all defined by his combat ability. His true power lies in his intelligence and foresight. He plays a key role in forming the coalition of planets and developing strategies to counter ruthless Viltrumite dominance over other weaker species. His loyalty is absolute, but in the exact opposite direction of almost every other Viltrumite who has ever lived. He believes in stopping the Empire, even if it means destroying his own kind. That conviction makes him incredibly dangerous, because unlike most Viltrumites, he cannot be brainwashed or controlled. His convictions and beliefs are stronger and more hard-earned than the other members of his species, and that makes him the biggest threat to them, and being a threat to the Viltrum Empire is almost unheard of, yet he lands blow after blow to them and their cause throughout his lifetime, starting with the murder of their ruler, Argal, that no doubt took unthinkable levels of strength, but Thetis proves that muscle isn't the only way to win. His influence, even from the shadows, shapes the larger conflict and directly impacts the outcome of the war. He may not dominate in direct combat like others on this list, but he has proven that he can, and his courage, strategic importance places him firmly in the upper tier. Conquest. Conquest Aeor is pure destruction. On everything about him is built for one purpose: overwhelming his opponent and breaking them completely before killing them. His first fight with Mark is one of the most brutal and memorable battles in the entire series, and it perfectly captures what makes him so unnerving. It wasn't a clean, technical fight, it was a prolonged, one-sided beating that pushed Mark to his absolute limit both physically and mentally. Conquest doesn't just want to win, he wants to dismantle. He wants to prove his superiority through sheer force, and he finds it genuinely entertaining to pummel opponents to death, which is frightening to say the least. What makes that fight so important is how much punishment Conquest absorbs while still pressing forward. Mark throws everything he has at him, blows that would cripple most Viltrumites, and Conquest just keeps coming. He laughs, taunts, and escalates the violence, showing a level of endurance that borders on absurd. Even when he's visibly damaged, he refuses to slow down, forcing Mark into a desperate, last resort effort just to survive. But there's more to Conquest than just raw power. He thrives on violence. He enjoys it in a way that even other Viltrumites don't. Where someone like Omni-Man is more collected and calculating when he fights, Conquest is wild and unrestrained. That makes him unpredictable in the moment, even if his overall approach isn't the most sophisticated. His loyalty to Thrag is fanatical. He doesn't question orders, doesn't hesitate, and doesn't need justification. He exists to enforce the Empire's will. And he does it with terrifying efficiency. Still, that same mindset is also his ceiling. He doesn't adapt strategically and he doesn't think long term. But when it comes to pure overwhelming force, very few Viltrumutes can match what Conquest brings to a fight. Fewer still live to tell the tale after facing him. There's nothing low tier about Conquest. He has, after years of fighting, conquering, and survival, he definitely earned a high ranking in this list. Omni-Man, aka Nolan Grayson. Omni-Man is where everything starts to come together: raw power, centuries of experience, and a level of strategic awareness that most Viltrumites never develop. From the very beginning of Invincible, he establishes himself as one of the most dominant forces in the story, and his massacre of the Guardians of the Globe is shocking and immediately puts his physical prowess on full display. He doesn't waste time or panic and doesn't give them time to get the upper hand. Earth's strongest heroes, and he wiped them off the planet. He erased an entire team of elite heroes in minutes, showing exactly what a high-level Viltrumite is capable of. But Nolan's strength isn't limited to that moment. His later encounters with other Viltrumites prove that he can compete with the best of them. Whether he's enduring brutal punishment or trading blows with opponents on his level, he consistently shows resilience and adaptability. He knows when to press the advantage and when to call for backup, which gives him an edge over more reckless fighters. What truly separates Omni-Man, though, is his internal conflict. At first, his loyalty to the Viltrumite Empire is solid, and for a long time, he embodies everything they stand for. But his relationship with Mark begins to change that. That shift forces him to question everything he has ever believed in, from his purpose to his beliefs and eventually his entire identity. And eventually he rebuilds himself, gains his own value set, and comes out stronger, smarter, and more empathetic than anyone thought possible. That evolution makes him unpredictable and a powerful player in the war against the Empire. He's still capable of extreme violence, but he's no longer an obedient robot bound by someone else's ideology. And in a world where most Viltrumites are rigid in their thinking, that flexibility becomes an immutable advantage. That is something that kept him, his allies, and countless innocent beings safe for a very long time. Omni-Man is layered, and that complexity makes him one of the most important figures in the entire story. Not to mention that without him, there is no Invincible. He sincerely cannot be ranked any lower than 4 on a list like this, and some people may even rank him higher, but the final 3 Viltrumites ranked here definitely deserved consideration for these top spots as well. Argal's placement is unique because his power isn't just measured through combat, but through legacy. Yeah, as the former ruler of Viltrum, he existed at the very top of a society where leadership is determined by strength. That proves that he must have had an extraordinary level of physical ability, because on Viltrum, weakness would never be tolerated at the highest level. Like, to rule Viltrum is to dominate everyone else completely, and as the longest and most revered ruler in Viltrumite history for a long time, Argal definitely achieved that. While we don't see him engage in as many on-screen battles as others on this list, his importance is undeniable. His reign shaped the Viltrumite Empire into what it became, reinforcing the ideals of conquest, superiority, and absolute control. Those values define characters like Thrag, who is directly tied to Argal's legacy and driven by it. Without his ideas, they would not have become as powerful as they did. That's a fact. And Argal's influence extends well beyond his own lifetime. The structure he helped build led to the mass domination of planets across the universe, and it continues to dictate how Viltrumites operate to the present day. He created the way they view other species, how they maintain power, and how they justify the methods they use to do so. Almost every conflict in the Invincible universe can be traced back to the foundation Argal established. His loyalty was to Viltrum itself, and his rule reflects that completely. He represents the Empire at its peak, a time when its power was unquestioned and its ideology unchallenged. While some people on this list may surpass him in physical combat, very few can match his overall impact. Argal is the blueprint for everything that comes after him, and that cannot be overlooked or overstated. Invincible, aka Mark Grayson. Mark Grayson represents the evolution of the Viltrumite race, and his journey is defined by personal growth as much as it is by physical strength. Unlike most Viltrumites, who are full-blooded and start training from birth, Mark begins far behind. Early on in his life as a superpowered being, he struggles in nearly every major fight. He's outmatched, outclassed, and often forced to endure more than he can dish out. But what sets him apart is his ability to adapt. His fight with Conquest is a perfect example. At first, he's completely overwhelmed, unable to match Conquest's strength or durability, but as the fight continues, Mark pushes himself further, refusing to give up even when he's on the brink of death. That resilience allows him to turn the tide in a way that few others could, and his final confrontation with Thrag, particularly during their battle on the sun, is the ultimate test of endurance, willpower, and evolution. Fighting in the sun pushes both Mark and Thrag past their limits, and the heat alone is enough to destroy them, yet Mark continues to fight through it, refusing to back down, even as his body is literally melting and being torn apart. What makes this moment so important is that Mark doesn't rely on raw power alone, he relies on everything he's learned. He adapts, endures, and keeps pushing forward, even against someone as dominant as Thrag. Earlier in the series, a fight like this wouldn't have lasted seconds. Now, Mark is able to stand his ground in one of the most extreme environments imaginable. Over time, those moments add up. Each battle makes him stronger, more experienced, and more capable of standing against top-tier opponents. By the later stages of the story, he's no longer just surviving the most intense enemies, he's competing. Mark's loyalty is what truly defines him. He doesn't fight for conquest or domination. He fights to protect people, even when it costs him. That mindset puts him at odds with traditional Viltrumite ideology, but it also gives him a kind of strength that is rooted in purpose rather than superiority. He eventually becomes the ruler of the Empire and challenges the idea that power has to be oppressive. And by doing that, he doesn't just grow stronger, he changes what it means to be a Viltrumite. But in order to take down Thrag, he couldn't work alone. He had to use every trick in the book, and it still almost killed him. That is the only reason he isn't ranked number 1. Mark is built different, but Thrag was truly on another level entirely. Thrag is the peak of Viltrumite ability. He is what Argal envisioned for their people. The perfect combination of strength, mercilessness, and absolute belief in the Empire. From the moment he's introduced, it's clear that he operates on a level above everyone else. He isn't just another powerful Viltrumite. He's the standard they're measured against, and the one they can never measure up to. His battles prove it. Whether he's fighting Omni-Man, taking on multiple opponents at once, or battling Mark, Thrag consistently demonstrates overwhelming dominance. He doesn't rely on brute force alone. He is a brilliant strategist as well. He fights with control, precision, and an understanding of his opponent's limits. He knows exactly how far he can push, and he rarely overextends. He is totally focused on his goal and is never distracted by his emotions. One of his most defining traits is his endurance. Ahan Thrag can take an incredible amount of punishment and continue fighting without losing focus. Even in extended battles where others would begin to slow down or give up, he maintains pressure, forcing his opponents into mistakes. That consistency makes him incredibly difficult to defeat. Just look at his days-long brawl with Battle Beast for proof. No one ever defeated Battle Beast before, and even after being gravely injured, Thrag pulled it off and kept it pushing. It took every possible angle you can think of. Plus, the heat of the center of the sun to take Thrag down, and he killed Nolan and almost murdered Mark before it was all over. His loyalty to the Viltrumite Empire is absolute, but more importantly, it's personal. He doesn't just serve Viltrum. In his eyes, he is Viltrum. Every decision he makes is aimed at restoring the Empire's dominance no matter the cost. He plans long-term, adapts when necessary, and never wavers in his mission. That combination of power, intelligence, and unwavering conviction makes him the most complete Viltrumite in the series. Others may challenge him, and some may even push him to his limits, but at his peak, Thrag stands alone at the top. At the end of the day, Viltrumites aren't just ranked by strength, they're defined by how they use it. And in a world full of unstoppable beings with incomprehensible strength, the real difference is established by who can learn, adapt, and respond most effectively to fight another day. How would you rank these Viltrumites? Drop your tier lists in the comments, and if you like this video, consider subscribing for more in-depth breakdowns of everything Invincible every week.